Hello everybody, we're back with another Actor's Dream video. My name is Garrett Ayers again. We're back with Hannah and Deonza. And today we're actually going to be doing a little experiment. We're going to be talking about memorizing lines and memorizing actions. And we're going to be doing a little bit of interplay with both to see how each process is similar and different, and maybe even which process is more or less efficient. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today, and again, all of the documents that we're working with are in the documents section below this video, so if you want to follow along, feel free. We're going to be taking a look at a short section of Scene 4 from John Patrick Shanley's Doubt. Okay, and so what I'm going to be asking Deonza and Hannah to do, Hansa's not here today, so Deonza and Hannah are going to be first asked to memorize the lines, okay, and we're going to take a pause, and we're going to come back, and primarily I'm going to ask them to stay with the idea of story and logic, right? That first pass through a script, just going through and getting, and if that means that you're not word perfect, right? Similar to how we worked on the monologue earlier, in the earlier video, we're going to ask them to do that, right? We're going to take a pause, we're going to come back, see how that worked, okay? And then we're going to ask them then to go back and memorize using Memory Palace and Loci, memorizing each action in sequence and seeing if that helps them retrieve a line in a different way, or even perhaps in a better or worse way. I've actually done this experiment in class numerous times, and I'm still curious about practicing this with a larger population and other actors trying this. So if you try it at home, feel free to send me your feedback on how it's worked for you. The interesting thing that I found in the initial experiments in class was that when I asked actors to memorize their actions, they were actually able to retrieve the text faster than simply focusing on the lines, right? And I have a hunch that that's because, right, action is the foundational element in our work. So if you know what you're doing, it's a lot easier to retrieve that line, right? If you know right here I'm insulting someone, well, you know what that insult is, and you can just call it up. So we're going to take a pause now. They're going to go through again. The first pass through this is logic and story. Just following those dominoes, not focusing on the actions per se right now, and then we're going to go back and do the second half of the experiment. So go off and do it yourself. We'll take a pause as well, and we'll see you in a short bit. All right, welcome back. We're ready to go through this partial chunk of Scene 4 from John Patrick Shanley's Doubt. So just to give you a little bit of context about what they did in the break to prepare for this. They spent about 5 to 7 minutes. They really worked through it 3 times. They took 3 passes through it, okay? The first one was just reading through, right? But intentionally and mindfully reading through with an attention towards the logic and story. So similar to what they did with that Will Eno monologue way back from the Tragedy of Tragedy play, they were mindfully looking through, reading it, tuning themselves into the logic and story, so that their second pass, they were talking through the logic to each other. Right? So I'm greeting you here by doing this, and then you did this, so that means I do this, right? Cause and effect, right? Unfolding the story as it happens. And then after that, they read through the scene one more time, and now here we are. So just to give you a context of how much time they've spent before you're seeing what you're seeing, okay? And so without any further ado, I'm just going to give you the floor and do the best you can to try to get through the text, okay? Mm-hmm. Whenever you're ready, Lise.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sister.
Good afternoon, Sister James. Mr. McGinn was pruning this bush, which was the right thing to do, but he forgot to protect it from the frost.
Have we had a frost?
Well, when it comes, it'll be too late.
You know about gardening?
A little. Where's your class?
The girls are in music.
And the boys?
They're in the rectory.
With Father Flynn?
Yes, he's giving them a talk.
About what?
About how to be a man.
I wish that the sisters were allowed to go into the rectory, because I would like to listen to that talk. I don't know how to be a man. Have you ever given the girls a talk about how to be a woman?
No, I wouldn't be competent.
Why not?
I took my vows at the beginning, at the beginning.
The founder of our order, the Blessed Mother Seton, was married with 5 children before she took up her vows.
I've often wondered how she's accomplished so much in one life.
A life can be long, and the dictates of the soul can be numerous. I was married.
You were.
Great, well done. That was actually very well done. So I'm curious too, just to get your feedback on what this process was like, and also if you can talk a little bit about, you've gone through enough of these videos right now and this training and these exercises. If you can talk about what that was like, and also if there's been a shift or a change since you first started working on these and working together.
I think in the process of like talking through it and all of that, I kind of noticed that before I had to be more intentional about picking out like unique words or patterns or numbers or you know, that sort of more foundational stuff. And this time around it just kind of happened more naturally, and my brain just automatically picked it out so that I could focus more on the overarching story.
So the more you've been doing this, the more those things are happening naturally or more powerfully, right? Or more clearly. What about you, Dianza?
I'm seeing things much more visible that were always there. They're just being highlighted. Like when you get a new car and you notice, oh, hey, everybody has that car too. But it's more of an awareness. So when I approach a script, I see the things that stand out immediately that suggest a way and tactic to approach it. This one specifically was very logic and story based. And so it made it very easy for me to explain my way through the process. But it feels like seeing the tools more readily and identifying them much more quickly.
Well, and also focusing too on logic and story first, right, and it sounds obvious, but you have to think, right? So I was even watching you, right, as you're going through these lines. You did a great job with them, but it's not just, what's that line? It's, you're starting to think about how am I responding? Why am I saying this thing, right? And you're starting to actually listen more, think more, and that's emerging. So that's really well done. So here's what we're going to do for the next aspect of this experiment. We're going to take I'm going to ask you to action out the script, right? Which, for those of you who have never done that, right, that's just basically going through each line and deciding what your action is. What are you doing? Right, in that moment, right? It's not an emotion, it's an action. It's something you can actually play and actually do, okay? So I want you to go through each line and do that. We'll take a pause, they'll do the same thing, and then we'll come back, and what I want you to do is memorize all of those actions using Loci and Memory Palace. So memorizing the order of the actions. You're not memorizing the lines, you're just memorizing the order of what you're doing, right? I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this. Then we're going to come back and see. It could be a disaster. It could be brilliant. We'll find out in a short while. We'll see you in a sec. All right, welcome back. Now for the second half of the experiment, we're going to be asking Dianza and Hannah to go through their actions and see what that experience is, memorizing the actions and seeing if the lines can be retrieved in the same way or easier or harder or just that relationship, okay? So what we're going to start out doing here is, Hannah, can we go through and can you just give me, without the lines right now, can you just give me the list of actions that you have to accomplish in the scene?
All right, so there's correct, to specify, to redirect, to clarify, to confirm, to investigate. Ooh. To reveal, to connect, to explore, to educate, to oh, it's similar to correct. Oh man.
You can look
and then
real
to
quick.
surprise.
Okay, great. Great.
To contradict.
To contradict. Okay, great.
And then to surprise. Yeah.
Okay, great. Dianza, can you give me the list of yours?
To greet, to excuse, to flatter, to release, to satisfy, to bait, to judge, to avoid, to discredit, to idolize, to envy.
Great. So knowing that, can you just go through the scene right now with each other, okay? And let's see how it goes.
With just our actions, or?
No, with the lines.
With the lines.
With the
okay,
lines.
Cool.
Good afternoon, sister.
Good afternoon, Sister James. Mr. McGinn pruned the rose bush, which was the right thing to do, but he neglected to protect it from the frost.
Have we had a frost?
If there is one, it's too late.
You know about gardening?
A little. Where's your class?
The girls are in music.
And the boys?
They're in the rectory.
With Father Kinney?
Yes, he's giving them a lesson.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay, what happened?
I said Father Kinney, which is a character from the play I'm in. And that just cracked me up.
So,
I'm sorry.
No, just go back to that line with
all right.
Father, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. Flynn. Okay. Father Kinney, who's that? Oh, that's who. Okay. With Father Flynn.
Yes, he's giving them instruction.
About what?
How to be a man.
I wish that the sisters were allowed to enter the rectory, and I wish that I could listen to that talk. I don't know how to be a man. Have you ever given a talk to the girls about how to be a woman?
No, I wouldn't be the right person.
Why not?
I took my vows at the beginning.
Well, our founder of the order, the Blessed Mother Seton, was married, and she had 5 children before she took up her vows.
I've often wondered how she managed to do so much in one life.
A life can last a long time, and the dictates of the soul are numerous. I was married.
You were.
All right. So aside from going into another play entirely, no, that's totally reasonable, right? We've all done that. We've been rehearsing a scene, or we've been rehearsing a play, and it's in our bones, right? It's just in our thing. So great. So I'm curious, just the experience of, and it's like anything else, right? Let's be honest. We can't completely deconstruct and separate every aspect, right? But it's really about putting something in the spotlight and something in shadow, and seeing what the utility of it, how it's useful, how it's not useful. I'm curious, doing what you did with the actions and going through it this time, right? You can't turn off logic and listening. You're still listening to each other. Yeah. But I'm curious what the experience was, and that could be everything from it was really muddy and it was really harder, or it actually added this other layer of understanding, or it made it smoother. Critical or positive? I'm curious what your experience was.
First of all, I think this one was much more time-consuming, and for me it was much foggier, and I struggled because logic and story did it for me the first time around. Yep. Whereas the second time through, the images, trying to connect that, got murky. The wording was thrown off, I think, by some of the things I was thinking of, and it just got more convoluted along the way. And
also, just to add to it, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying as well. So it sounds like to you, so for example, when they were doing this in the break, they did about 5 to 7 minutes with logic and story. They did about 20 minutes for the Memory Palace, right? So it took more time. And what I also hear you saying is, like we've said earlier, right, strategically, if logic and story is going to be useful, that's going to be your most efficient thing and your go-to thing, right? Does that make sense? So is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Great. So Hannah, what about you?
I think for me, I'm mainly, first and foremost, relied on the logic and story. But then when I started to go up on that, I found myself resorting to thinking about, okay, what am I doing? What is my action? What's happening right now?
Sure.
And then that kind of helped me like recenter myself and like remind myself of like what I'm doing, and then I could pick up the line again.
Great. And also, can you ask that question without going through Loci Memory Palace? Of course you can. You can ask, right? And also, not in the sense of what am I doing? I'm stupid. I'm not intelligent. No, literally, what am I doing here, right? So for example, can I take your scripts? I'm just curious. We'll do a little final exercise here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recite an action and see if you can come up with the line that corresponds to that, right? Because as we talked about earlier, right, the primary reason that we don't remember things is because it's not meaningful, right? But also the biggest challenges in in memorization are about, it's not that you didn't get the line, it's that you don't know where you put it. It's about retrieving it. It's about being able to file it somewhere meaningful, right? Mm-hmm. And knowing your actions and knowing the sequence and the story and logic and these other things are ways in which we can easily grab those things. So for example, if we were going, so I just want to make sure which one is yours and which one is Deanza. Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll start with you and then we'll go to Deanza. So we'll just go to a couple. When you confirm, what do you say?
With Father Flynn.
Yes. When you say, or when you are correcting her.
Correcting her?
To correct.
Oh. Mr. McGinn was pruning the rose bush, mm-hmm. but he neglected to prepare it for the frost.
Right, to investigate.
What are they talking about?
This is after with Father Flynn. And then she says, yes, he's giving them a talk.
Oh, what about?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and also, right, there are similar, yes,
what about,
exactly, yeah. Yes. What about to surprise?
I was married.
Right. What about to educate?
Our founder of the order, the Blessed Mother.
Right.
Yeah.
So a couple things there, right? You saw, especially with those last few, immediate. Mm-hmm. One of the other ones, right, was she said the right line, it was just a paraphrase, and so I didn't understand what she was saying, right? So, but again, at the end of the day, is it useful for you, right? And if you are proactively analyzing the script, breaking it down, structuring it, and actioning it, I can't tell you how much that is going to help you, right, to be able to go back and retrieve, because you've already gotten inside the head of the person you're playing, right? So, okay, Deanza, we'll go with you. Let's see how it goes here. So, to greet.
Good afternoon, sister.
To bait.
He's giving them a talk.
Yes. To avoid.
I wouldn't be competent.
To flatter.
You know about gardening.
To excuse.
Have we had a frost?
Great. So again, some of this is, just a little bit of testing and reverse engineering. But again, it showcases that if you have a solid understanding of action, and if you have a solid understanding of what you're doing, the line is going to ride right on that. And that's going to be a very important foundational thing as you're getting off book and as you're memorizing, but also as you're analyzing and as you're trying to understand the scene and the play as a whole and your role in it, right? So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you join us in the next video.